What Socrates wanted to do was take one individual at a time, one mind at a time, and engage it in a conversation. He thought that's how people grow. Engage them in a conversation that leads them not into the external world, the social world, but back into themselves. It's like a primitive form of Freudian or Jungian psychology, kind of. Because Socrates believed that you don't need to learn things from the outside, reading textbooks. He said what you really need to know is that if you go inside of yourself, you already have all that information at your hands. You already know that stuff. Because you possess innately within yourself all the knowledge in the world. That's what Socrates thought. So what he wanted to do, what Socrates wanted to do, was help people give birth to their own spontaneous, original ideas, and not just memorize somebody else's ideas from a book. So that's why he didn't like writing. That's why he was a Buddha. Jesus of Nazareth, some 400 years later, in a continent away from Athens, Jesus met a woman at a well in Samaria. She asked, where are we supposed to worship? That was a problem in her day. She says, our ancestors worship here, up in the mountains in Samaria, at the ancient shrines, the hills. But she says, nowadays people say we have to come down to the flatland and worship in the up-to-date, rebuilt, retrofitted temple in Jerusalem. So she said, Jesus, you're a rabbi. Tell me something. Where are we supposed to worship? Jesus said to her, the day is coming, and in fact it's already here, when people will not, should not, don't do it anymore, worship in the mountains, the shrines, or in the temple, down in the valley. They should come to worship in spirit, in themselves, in the holy quietness of their own hearts. I don't think people that Jesus was trying to tell people not to go to church. He didn't go to church. Or the temples and the synagogues. He was simply saying that, you know, you could be there in that temple, and there's noise, and there's quiet, there's bells, and there's nothing. It doesn't matter. If you're not in the worship mode, if you haven't got your mind put simultaneously with the mind of God impressed upon your mind, then you're not worshiping at all. He's simply saying that real worship, spiritual worship, doesn't happen on the outside. No matter how much you posture and gesture, it only happens in the inner world, the spiritual world. That's where it happens. And that's reflected in the outer world. But doesn't work the other way around. So in order to get to that inner place of worship, that inner world, you have to withdraw to some extent from the world and activity that surrounds you. You have to withdraw sometimes from an oversized, technologically savvy church, a temple, or synagogue, because you need to personalize your worship. So maybe you can worship better on a park bench, or in your bed without even getting up. And you can find your own religion and make it your own. That's what Jesus is saying to the woman at the well. You can worship here at this well. Do it right now. Close your eyes. It's better than being in a temple. What that means is that sometimes you have to some extent, contract your presence in the outer world to get that maximum effect from the source of power and wisdom that we call the soul. Now that doesn't mean that you have to withdraw from the world like a monk or a nun in order to be spiritual. But you have to be aware of and able to respond to some very quiet, subtle signals that are being sent to you from the inner divinity, the inner Christ, sent to you from your outer self, from your inner self. St. Teresa of Avila, who we talk about sometimes, she was the nun who was the pal of St. John of the Cross, 16th century Spanish mystic and poet. She wrote, "We have no need of wings to go in search of God, but we've only to find a place where we can be alone and look upon him present within us. That's a long time ago. That's more than 500 years ago. She was really up to date, wasn't she? Pretty hip lady.